A parcel arrived in the mail for Mari Kono's parents in late August 1988, the year she went missing. A picture of Mari's attire from when she vanished, a few baby teeth, and a postcard with the following message were all found inside the box on a bed of fine powder. Mari, cremated, bones. Investigate, prove.
私はそれを見る限りでは全部を信用することはできないんです。ただ文章はやはりマリを連れて行った人が書いたものだと思います。これが人間としてこんなことがどうしてできるの。
The son of a prosperous family, Tsutomu Miyazaki was born in Itsukaichi, Tokyo, on August 21, 1962, due to a unique birth condition that resulted in his hand joints being fused together at birth. He was unable to flex his wrists upwards and was thus delivered prematurely. Miyazaki's grandpa and great-grandfather had been town council members in Itsukaichi, where the family managed a well-known regional newspaper business. The family hired as a babysitter nurtured him mostly since his parents were too busy to care for him. Miyazaki was a reclusive person who rarely went to events or made contacts. He was so embarrassed that he would frequently cover up his hands in pictures. But when he was by himself at home, he did appear to like drawing and reading comics. Despite not being an outgoing student, he was successful and placed in the top 10 in his class. He went from Tokyo's Nakano Elementary School to Nakano High School, where he excelled academically and pursued his dream of becoming a teacher. Till a sharp decline in his grades occurred. He ranked 40 out of 56 in his class. He was not granted the usual entrance to Meiji University, granted to its pupils. Miyazaki trained to be a photographic technician at a nearby junior college, as opposed to his initial plan of studying English and becoming a teacher. Miyazaki's strangeness grew much more in college. On the tennis courts, he photographed women players' crotches. He'd go through pornographic magazines, but these became boring to him too. He once remarked, "They black out the most important part." Then Miyazaki started looking for child porn in 1984. Censorship had no effect because Japan's obscenity laws only forbade the display of public hair, not sex organs. Miyazaki lived with his parents and sisters, although he was mostly close to his grandfather. Even though he remembered thinking about ending his life at this time, he also remembered his grandfather supporting him. When Miyazaki's grandfather passed away in May 1988, it made him feel even more alone and depressed. Miyazaki tried to retain something from him by eating some of his grandfather's ashes. Mari Kono, the 4-year-old, disappeared while playing at a friend's house on August 22, 1988, one day after Miyazaki turned 26. Kono had followed Miyazaki into his black Nissan Langley, which he then drove out of Tokyo and parked in a forested spot beneath a bridge. There, he sat with Kono for 30 minutes before killing her and molesting her body. After leaving her garments behind and letting the body decay, he returned to take her hands and feet, which he stored in his closet, and disposed of it in the hills nearby to his house. Kono's remaining bones were cremated in his furnace, shredded into powder, and sent to her family in a box with pictures of her garments, some of her teeth, and a postcard that said, "Mari, bones, cremated, investigate, prove."
私はそれを見る限りでは全部を信用することはできないんです。ただ文章はやはりマリを連れて行った 人が書いたものだと思います。これが人間としてこんなことがどうしてできるの。
遺骨の中に手と足がなかったような気がするんです。そうしますと天国に行っても歩けないんです。物を食べることもできないんです。ぜひもしあるんであれば全部返していただきたい。そして天国で歩けるように食べられるようにして。
After investigation, it was said that those bones weren't Mari's, so he wrote a letter to the newspaper under the name Yuko Imada. I put the cardboard box with Mari's remains in it in front of her home. I did everything, from the start of the Mari incident to the finish. I saw the police press conference where they said the remains were not Mari's. On camera, her mother said the report gave her new hope, that Mari might still be alive. I knew then that I had to write this confession, so Mari's mother would not continue to hope in vain. I say again, the remains are Mari's. Masami Yoshizawa, age 7, was his second victim. Miyazaki saw her strolling down the street. After offering to drive her, he killed her in a remote wood, exactly as he had done with Mari Kono. Once more, he molested the body, leaving it nude in the forest while stealing the victim's clothes. Similar to Yoshizawa, 4-year-old Erika Namba was kidnapped as she was making her way home along the road. On this occasion, though, Miyazaki made her get into the car and undress in the back seat. Brutally deviating from his usual method, Tsutomu Miyazaki snapped pictures of her, killed her, and then bound her hands and feet. He placed her body under a bedsheet in the trunk of his car, instead of leaving it at the crime site. Subsequently, he carelessly disposed of her body in a parking lot and her garments in a neighboring wood. Erika Namba's family, like Mari Kono's, got a distressing note that was cobbled together using magazine clippings. It said, "Erika, cold, cough, throat, rest, death." One of the most disturbing victims of the Otaku killer was his last. In June 1989, Miyazaki kidnapped 5-year-old Ayako Nomoto. Instead of disposing of her body in the woods, like he had done in the past, he killed her and took her corpse home after persuading her to allow him to take her picture. He raped the corpse for 2 days at home, taking pictures of her, masturbating, dismembering the body, and consuming the little girl's blood. He even nibbled on her feet and hands. Miyazaki disassembled the remainder of her body as soon as she started to decay and scattered the pieces all over Tokyo, including a public restroom, a cemetery, and adjacent woods. 2 weeks later, though, he went back to get the components because he started to worry that the police might discover them at the cemetery. After that, he stored the severed body in his closet at home. Observing 2 sisters playing in a park in Hachioji on July 23, 1989, Miyazaki was able to separate the smaller sister from the elder one, who remained behind. When their father discovered that he was taking pictures of the younger daughter whom he had persuaded to go nude, he fought Miyazaki but was powerless to stop him. Miyazaki ultimately made his way back to the park to get his car after running away on foot. When police arrived in response to the father's call, they arrested Miyazaki. 5,763 videotapes were found during a search of his 2-room bungalow. Some of them contained anime and slasher movies, which were later used as justification for his atrocities. Among them were pictures and video clips of his victims. Miyazaki seemed unaffected by his capture, continuing to maintain an unwaveringly cool and composed manner throughout his trial. The trial of Miyazaki started on March 30th, 1990. He frequently spoke incoherently and blamed his acts on Ratman, an alter personality he said pushed him to kill. He even spent some time cartooning Ratman during the trial. Meanwhile, his parents publicly disowned him, and his father refused to pay for his son's legal fees. He would later commit suicide in 1994. Miyazaki's mental state at the time of the murders was a central theme of the 7-year trial. As per Japanese legislation, individuals with cognitive disabilities are eligible for reduced punishments, while those with unsound minds are not punished at all. 3 groups of professional psychiatrists hired by the court reached different judgments regarding Miyazaki's morality. He was diagnosed with a cognitive disability by one team, schizophrenia by another, and multiple personality disorder by a third team. A third team discovered that despite having a personality problem, Miyazaki was able to accept accountability for his deeds. Miyazaki was found to be responsible by the Tokyo District Court because he was aware of the seriousness and repercussions of his acts. On April 14, 1997, he was given a death sentence.
山崎義夫、六田真治、宮崎勉の3名の死刑を執行しました。
On June 17, 2008, Minister of Justice Kunio Hatoyama signed Miyazaki's death warrant. Miyazaki was hanged that same day at the Tokyo detention house.